This is Gemara in Makkos, Daf Yud Gimel. We're holding the bottom of Yud Beis and Mid Beis. I apologize for the lack of camera. B'siyata d'shemaya on the next year. Everything should be back up and running. We'd like to dedicate today's year to this incredible schos refuah shalema for Tinok ben Miriam Ahuva b'soich sha'ar Chayli Yisrael. An exciting day in the world of Daf as b'siyata d'shemaya will be wrapping up the second parak here in Makkos. So we pick it up from the Mishnah on the bottom of Yud Beis Amid Beis. Says the Mishnah, Ki yoytzei boi, similar to it, Ritzeach shegala li'ir miklatoi, or Ritzeach that is goyla to the Ari miklat of Ratzu anshe yo'ir lechabdoi, and the people there want to be mechabed him, they want to honor him. Yoymar lahem Ritzeach ani. He should tell them, I'm a Ritzeach. I'm not befitting of your honor. The Ritzeach has a dictum to tell them, don't honor me. If they respond, no, we still want to honor you, then Yikabel Mehem, he's allowed to accept their honor. He doesn't have to protest any further. Says the Gemara, where does this come from? Shenamar. The Pasuk says, V'zeh Devar. And this is the word of the Ritzeach. From there we learn out from the singular Devar that he has this obligation to protest once, at one point, to show that he's not the right one, to say, no, there's other people that deserve kavod, and then move on. Continue the Mishnah on the top of Yigimel and Aleph. Ma'alim hayu schar l'levim. Says the Mishnah, those at Ari Miklat would have to pay schar. They would have to rent out their house to the Levium. The Levium, there was their homes, and now if the Ritzeach needs somewhere to live, he has to rent it. Divi Rabbi Yehuda. Rameir Aimer, no, lohem alam schar. No, he would not pay. For chayzer, they would not pay, and rather they would have to provide him housing for free. And point 3 from the Mishnah concludes the Mishnah. V'chayzer lishrara shahaya pa, and the Ritzeach returns to whatever position he had before he went to Galus, before he goes to Ari Mikla Divi Rabbi Meir. Whereas if Yehuda Aimer, no, lo yachayzer lishrara shahaya pa, he would not go back to his position of authority. Once a Ritzeach, once in Ari Miklat, then he's unworthy now to go back to his position. Rashi over here in the second line spells out, we're talking about if he was a Nasi, Rosh Av Bezdin, etc., etc. Says the Gemara, Amrav Kana Machlekes B'Sheish. The Machlekes in the Mishnah, the Machlekes whether you have to pay for rent in Ari Miklat is referring to the original 6 Ari Miklat, the 3 of Yeshua, the 3 of Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the machlekes? The mar savar lachem leklita, or mar savar lachem lechol tzarchechem. The machlekes is how to darshan the pasuk. What does it mean that the Ari Miklat is there lachem for you? Either Rav Yehuda holds it means it's for you, that it saves your life, or Amir holds no, it's lachem, but it's for all your needs. Meaning that he lives there even free of charge. He does not have to pay anything. Aval, however, Barba Mushtayim, the other 42, Divrei Kol, Hayamaya Lelahem Zchar. This is the second difference that we find between the 42 and the 6. The first difference we had was that the 6 provide safe refuge, whether it's Bedas or not. Now we learn that the 6 are at a higher level, that is where the machlekes in the Mishnah is, whether you have to pay for rent. But the other 42, everyone is in agreement that you would, yes, have to pay for rent. Amrle Rava, so Rava responds and says, no, Havadi lochem l'chol tzarchechem. Mashma, the other 42, of course, the original 6, of course, lochem means l'chol tzarchechem, you don't have to pay any rent. So what's the machlekes? Elamai Rava mamish vakert. Machlekes is barba mushtayim. Demar savar v'aleim titnu, and then they're given kihanach liklita. But of course you have to pay rent. Umar savar no v'aleim titnu kihanach manach chol tzarchechem avanu nami v'chol tzarchechem. You don't even have to pay rent. But says Rava avol b'sheish, the original 6, then The exact opposite. So machlekes Rav Kana and Rava, whether the machlekes is dafka about the 6 or the machlekes is dafka about the 42. Says the Gemara, quoting the Mishnah, we have a machlekes Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda whether he returns back to his position of authority or not. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Gemara, Vishav el mishpachtoi velachuzas avaisav. The Brisa teaches that these are speaking about Eved Ivri, that after he goes free, he goes back to mishpachtoi, his family, achuzas avaisav, the holdings of his family, Yashav, he returns. From there we learn now, L'mishpachto shav, to his family he returns, Veina shav, but he does not return to L'mashech ziku avaisav divri of Yehuda, he doesn't go back to his original position. He goes back fully. Continues the Braisa, and this is the precursor to our discussion. And the same thing is going to apply in our discussion about one who goes to Golus. Now the Gemara sources this, when the Pasuk says, excuse me, V'chein begoyla, Kshoimer Yashav l'Rambais Esaretzech. My V'chein begoyla, Kidetanya. Yashav Aretzech l'Eretz Achuzasai, l'Eretz Achuzasu Shav. Veinu Shalom Machshech Lik Avoisav Divri Rabbi Yehuda. He does not go back to his position. Whereas Meir Omer Avushav Machshech Lik Avoisav, Kamar Shiva Me'asam. And that's going to be the same machlekes by an Eved Ivri is going to apply by us with regarding to Rotzeach when he returns from Golus. Hadron Alach that wraps up this incredible second parak, Iluhin Agoylin. Again, another short parak, very fitting, easy. Nothing's easy, but to perform, to start getting involved in Chazara. Now we begin the third parak. Says the Mishnah, Ve'ilu Heina Loikin. And these are the ones that receives Malchus. Explains the Mishnah. Habala Chaisai, not sort of segueing a little bit away from our original discussion of Ari Miklat, of Retzeach, of Shayek, Malchus. When are there Achia Malchus? Says the Mishnah, Abal Achaisai, Valachais Aviv, with his sister, his father's sister, Achais Imai, his mother's sister, Achais Ishto, his wife's sister, Valishes Achiv, brother's wife, Valishes Achi Aviv, the wife his father's brother, Valanida, any of these illicit relationships, the halacha is that one is Chayav Malchus. Continues the Mishnah, another list. The first list is all Chiyuvei Kares, and there's also Malchus. Now says the Mishnah, Amana l'kain gadol, Grushav chalutz l'kain hadian, Mamzeres and Nesinu l'Yisrael, Bas Yisrael and Nesinu l'Mamzer. These are all cases in which there's not Malchus, Amana Grusha, all of these Chayavim love, Mishom Shnei Shemais is no Malchus, but rather there's a Chayav of Shnei Shemais. What does it mean? There's a Chayav of Shnei Shemais, Al-Gana Grusha, each of the psukim carries their own halacha. Why? What about Ein Isser Chal Isser? We'll see in the Gemara. Grusha v'chalutza ino chayev elu misham achos balvad, but concludes the first half of the Mishnah that a grusha and a chalutza, for kayin is together with them, which of course is also aser. The halacha is there is only one iser, not two isurim. Continues the Mishnah. Hatami shachal ezak kadosh. If someone who's tamei eats hakdish, shachal ezak kodesh. Or Habala Mikdash Tamei, someone enters the Beis Hamikdash when he's Tamei. Or Vaichal Chela V'Dam V'Naiser U'Pegol, he eats any of these items which are forbidden to eat. V'Tamei, or he eats Hektish once it's Tamei. V'Sheichin U'Mala Bachotz, he brings the carbon outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Vaichal Chametz B'Pesach, fitting. Literally, as we conclude Pesach, we have the incredible Mishnah that deals with what was the Lav Rachman al-Islan if someone ate Chametz on Pesach. V'oichal v'oisem melacha b'yom HaKippurim, mafatein es hashemen, someone who replicates and compounds any of the Shemen HaMishcha, v'mafatein es HaKetayres. Similarly, he creates similar to the Ketayres of the Beis HaMikdash. V'asach b'Shemen HaMishcha, he misuses the Shemen HaMishcha. These are all going back to similar to the first case in the Mishnah, which is both Chiyuvei Kares together with the Chiyuv Malchus. Continues the Mishnah. Eichel nevelos u'treifas shkatzim rabatzim. Achal tevel l'meiser rishon shlonitzma trumaso meiser sheni v'hektish l'naftu kama yoichel min hatevel v'yicha. All of those are cases of malchus without karis. Kama yoichel min hatevel v'yichayev. How much tevel does one have to be yichayev? Rishim and Amar kolshu. Chachamim Mrim Ksayis Amalim Rav Shimon Meta Moedim Li Baichal Nemala Kolshu Shuchayev. You're not masking to me. If you eat an nemala, you eat an ant. That even though it's more than Ksayis Shuchayev Amar Loi. No, what's the raya? An ant is a whole entity. Mishahi Kibriyasa. It's in its original form, and that's the reason why. It's in the way that it was created, and that is the reason why you're chayiv, even though it's less than a kezayis. Amar lem avchita achas. One wheat kernel is similar. It is kibriyasai, and therefore you will be chayiv. So let's dive right into the Gemara that's going to deal with all these different categories in the Mishnah. We have chiyuvei malchus and kares, chiyuvei malchus without kares, and then we have the final sugya in the Mishnah, which is the amount one has to eat to be chayiv. So says the Gemara, chiyuvei kares katani, chiyuvei misas bezdin like katani. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. It sounds like that which is chayiv kares gets malchus, but that which is chayiv misas bezdin does not. Says the Gemara, but if that's true, Masti said, Mani Rabbi Akiva, he did Tanya. Echad chayave krisos, echad chayave misas bezdin. Yeshnai bechla malchus arbaim. As we turn over to Yud Gimel Amid Beis, this first sheet on the Brisa, Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael is of the opinion that both chayave misas and chayave malchus are liable. Chiyuvei misas bezdin and chiyuvei kares get malchus. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva Omer, no, chiyuvei kares shanu bechlal malchus arbaim. Chiyuvei krisos yesh bechlal malchus arbaim. That why? Sheim also tshuva. Then bezdin shamay l'meichlai. The reason is, says the Gemara, that malchus is a step in tshuva. So someone is chayiv krisos, which is misa b'dei shamayim. Then we give him malchus. If he does tshuva, then Hashem will be meichlim lai. Whereas says Rabbi Akiva, chiv misas bezdin eina bechlal malchus arbaim. Why? Because Shem also tshuva in bezdin shalmata meichlim lai. Bezdin shalmata does not have the ability to be meichlim lai, and therefore in all scenarios there will not be malchus. Says Rabbi Akiva for chiyuvei misas bezdin because there's no purpose, quote unquote. Therefore, says the Gemara, Mishnah is going to be Rabbi Akiva. Now we just conclude the brayso with a third opinion. Rav Yitzchak Omer, chiyuvei krisos bechlal hayu, v'lam yatsa kares, b'achoyse ladanu bekares, v'loi b'malchus. Says Rav Yitzchak, all cases of illicit relationships, says Rav Yitzchak, do not get malchus. But why? So why does the Torah single out kares b'achoysai? Lanu kares v'loi b'malchus. Normally we would say anytime there's a lav, there's malchus on top of it. But however, it says Rav Yitzchak mamish the exact opposite. The Torah explicates only b'achoysai to teach us that dafka there's going to be only kares and not malchus. So the Gemara begins by teaching us that the Mishnah is going to have to be like the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. So the Gemara now dives a little bit deeper into this brayso. 10 lines down. The first one line is Yishmael. My time with Rabbi Yishmael. Where does Rabbi Yishmael come from? This is always malchus t'chsev. It's called every ater azois uksev hafle Hashem es makoischa. Hafla zu eni yodea mai. What is the Torah mean when it says hifli Hashem will make extraordinary? What is the Torah referring to in this pasuk? Shoimer, when the Torah continues, ve'afilu ha'shayfet v'yikol lefanav haviyomer hafla zu malkusi uksev im leisish malasas kol v'gaimer. So therefore, Yishmael learns out from here that all cases, whether it's chiyuvei misa or chiyuvei malchus, they all are liable to kares. Ask the Gemara, but wait, then it should be everything. Even chiyuvei asay should get malchus. Says we shall know. It's only for negative commandments. Continues the Gemara. Where do we know this means malchus? Any of those three words. Those are all referring to loisase. And that's what we learn, that it's going to be malchus. Ask Gemara, so So if all alavim are included, says the Gemara, then all alavim should be included, even alav shein by ma'isa. Says Gemara, no, lasois kisiv. And from the word that lasois means it has to be a positive and actual ma'isa. Ask the Gemara, lav shenitik lasei nami. So lav that is remedied by an asay, which the rule is no malchus. Ask Gemara why it should be the same thing. Explains the Gemara, Domya de lav de chasima. The reason is it has to be similar to the lav of chasima, which the Torah writes it explicitly, which is any case of not a lav shenitik lasei. And therefore, if it's lav shenitik lasei, there'll be no malchus. And therefore, says the Gemara, and that's what we're going to learn. We don't need to have any extra rayos. That's what we're going to learn. That has to be a positive commandment, and it has to be a lav sheyesh boy maisa. That is shitas Rebbe Yishmael. Now we go on to the second sheet of the brisa. Rav Akiva Ma'itaima. Where does Rav Akiva, which is the Tana of our Mishnah, which says it's only malchus by chivei kraris, where does he get it from? Says the Gemara, Kedei Rishasai, Misham Risha Achas, Tatamachaiva V'Yatamachaiva Misham, Shtei Rishayos. And that's the reason why whenever it's a capital crime, it's chivei misa, there'll be no malchus. Rabbi Yishmael, how does he respond? Animili misa umamoin, a malchus umamoin. Misa malchus misa arichta here. Yishmael says no. Malchus is a form of misa, and therefore you could get misa and malchus. It's called a misa arichta. Well, Rabbi Kiva asked the Gemara, Yachi chayvi krisis nami. According to Rabbi Kiva, chayvi krisis should also not get malchus. My Amre, what are you going to tell me? Shamasa tshuva, hashtami alay avdi. But you didn't do tshuva. So what's Rabbi Kiva's whole svara? That if it's a chiyuvi krisos, then we want to give you this extra opportunity to get malchus, eventually do tshuva. Lamaisi, you didn't do tshuva yet. So Amar Avavua, befeirship satira chayuvi krisos lemalchus. It's explicit. The Gamar le'inei mileinecha, and that's the reason why there's going to be malchus by chiyuvi krisos. Asla Rava Ramamo, 8 lines to the white lines. Yachichivi says Bezin Nami Nigra Me'ine Mileinecha. Should be the same drasha. Answers Gemara Dana Le'ine Mileinecha V'Dana Me'ine Mileinecha. It's not the exact drasha. Mainav Kamino asks the Gemara Vatan Yishmael famously, who says that every Xeris Akosov has to be exact? V'Shava Kain Uba Kain Zui Shiva Zui Bia. Rabbi Yishmael learns that you can make Xeris Shava even if it's not the exact same word. V'Hoi Ligmar Eine Mile Eine Tagamar Le'Eine Mile Necha. Answers the Gemara Kabbalah Minei. We have a Kibla Minei Rabbi Yishmael Bar Yitzchak. So says the Gemara, they accepted this kasha, and therefore we go back and we do a different limud, kederish alsai. And from there we learn out, and that is the reason, that is going to be the makar. We'll stop over Berisha Mesur Lebezdin, Hakasa Medaber, and therefore that's going to be the chilik between Misas Bezdin and Krisos. We'll stop over here and we'll continue with Rav on the first white line of the next year, which will teach us the chilik between Chiyuvei Misas Vaiter and Chiyuvei Krisos, Chiyuvei Misas Bezdin and Chiyuvei Krisos, which is Misas B'Shamayim, B'Siyata D'Ishmayim.